Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Today I wanted to do part 2 of my romance book recommendations. The first video I did a couple days ago, which is YA romances. And today there's other genres that I really like, so I'm going to do classics and like the chick lit, so modern. So I will start with the classics. And I have 3 classics and 3 kind of chick lit books. If you guys have followed me, you guys know which ones are probably the ones I chose for classics. I chose 3. 2 of them by one of my favorite authors, Jane Austen. And it is Persuasion and Pride and Prejudice. Now, I know most people have read those books at school or just in general, but if you haven't, definitely read these books. They are just classics and worth your time. So Persuasion is a story about a girl named Anne Elliot, and many years ago she was persuaded by her family to break off an engagement to a guy named Frederick Wentworth. So 7 years later he's back in town, and it's what happens? Like, do they still have feelings for each other? What happens? What has happened in those 7 years? This is one of my favorite romances, and yeah, I just really love it. The next one is, of course, Pride and Prejudice. It's one of Jane Austen's most famous stories. This is a story of a girl named Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. This book started the trope hate to love, and it's one of my favorite tropes, but the way that this is written, it's a classic. It's a girl. She overhears a guy one day saying, she overhears him at a party saying that she's not that pretty, and ever since then, she's like, I don't like you. But then it's just what happens in the family, and they actually get to know one another. So, yes. If you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, read Pride and Prejudice. And then the last classic is one that took me years to like, but I just really love it. It is Jane Eyre. So I tried to find a couple copies of Jane Eyre because I have a few, but the only one I could find was my vintage edition one. So this is a story about a girl, Jane Eyre, and she she's put in this school where things are just bad, and because her family just doesn't really like her, and just kind of like her growing up, she becomes a governess. She goes to this place to be a governess, and then falls for the man of the house. When I was little, I did not like this book, but then as I read it as an adult, and I just love it. So it has some like just really well written passages. So if you haven't read Jane Eyre, read Jane Eyre. And then here's some chick lit modern romances. Let's see. I have a couple copies of these, but I couldn't find them, so I'm just going to use my iPad. So the first one is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This is a story about 2 people who work together at the same company, and they start vying for the same job position. And it's just funny and romantic. They don't like each other at first, but then they get to know each other. So I really like it. She came out with another book recently, 99% Yours. That one was okay, but I didn't like it as much as The Hating Game. The characters in The Hating Game are much more likable than that other one. Another one is Christina Lauren's Roomies. Christina Lauren has written a lot of romance books, and I think the one that I like the best is Roomies. This is a story about a girl. Every day as she walks home, she sees a street musician, Then one day there's like an accident and they meet, and she finds out that he needs a green card. So she's like, well, let's get married. So they get married and they fall in love. So I always like the stories of like forced relationships and they actually like each other. So I like that one. This one was really cute. So yeah, out of all Christina Lauren's books, I think that's the one I like the best. And the last one is kind of an oldie, but one that I really like. It's The Wedding by Nicholas Sparks. Nicholas Sparks, he writes a lot of romances. The two ones that I like the best, of course, and probably his more famous ones are Walk to Remember, and I really, really, really like The Wedding. He also wrote The Notebook. You guys probably have seen that, the movie. And The Wedding is a story about these two people who they're older, and the husband starts kind of reflecting on his relationship with his wife and kind of figuring out ways for them to fall in love again. So I really like that. And you don't see a lot of romances where it's the husband and wife. So I really liked it. All these books I probably have listened to or read more than twice. So something that I really enjoy. Anyway, there are some romance recommendations for you on this Valentine's Day. What are some of your favorite romantic books? Let me know. And hope you liked this video. Like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bye.